Good morning, everyone. We'll officially get started. Welcome to our first Graze on Over for the year. My name is Ellen Harrell, and I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for the National Grazing Lands Coalition. Today, I am joined by our own Bill Fox, who is our Central Regional Resource Manager for NatGLC, as well as Campbell Mauchan, who is a representative from AgriWebb. And today, we are going to be talking about the power of partnerships and private programs. And I will let Bill kick it off if you guys will give me just a minute to share my screen. And the chat is open if you guys have questions. You're more than welcome to put that in the chat, as well as if you have questions and want to unmute yourself, you are welcome to do that at any point. And we'll also have time for questions at the end. And Bill, here we go.
All right, thanks, Ellen. Appreciate that. And Campbell, really glad to be on here with you today to visit a little bit about some things that are going on right now in the grazing world with this idea of strengthening conservation through partnerships. And typically in the past, we've spent a lot of time in the grazing world. The partnerships have primarily been with our traditional funding sources, either through NRCS, EQIP, and other things like that. But over the last, decade or so, things have been changing a little bit more and a little bit faster with opportunities for conservation and partnerships between public and private entities, especially with this idea that the recognition of the value that is held within a corporation's supply chain and their recognition of the value of that producer as a key component for the opportunities. And so we wanted to take the opportunity to kind of visit just in general about this idea of these public-private partnerships and what's going on with the corporations and their interests as they more and more are looking for opportunities to engage producers and engage with producers within their supply chains and within their supply sheds. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about. We'll start off today with just some general overview kind of thoughts and ideas, and then turn it over to Campbell and really let him delve into some. I'm going to finish off with a key point and let him delve into some things that AgriWebb is doing with the information world, and then we'll finish off with a little discussion of a project that we have, a partnership between AgriWebb, NatGLC, and Regrow to kind of as an example of how these things are working. So with that brief introduction, Ellen, if you could go ahead and roll on, let's talk about this. Put this in just in case folks are not aware of the National Grazing Land Coalition. We consider ourselves a dynamic force driving positive change in the agricultural landscape. I would say that probably fits very well with our good friends at AgriWebb. They are a positive change in the agricultural landscape. Our mission at NatGLC is to provide ecologically and economically sound management for grazing lands for all of their uses. You'll hear about that a little bit more later, and all of the multiple benefits that they provide, not only to producers, but also to society as a whole. And this is done through science-based technical assistance, research, and education. So that's what our driver is from the NatGLC perspective. So go ahead, Alan, let's run on over to the next slide. So I started off with why, how, and what. And I don't know if anybody knows Peter Sinek. Anyway, this guy he's a very famous speaker on this idea of why and how and what. So often we spend so much time in what we are doing on the operational level, and we really need to be thinking about why and how we're getting there. So I wanted to take that kind of a viewpoint as we did this. And so why are we even talking about conservation and public-private partnerships? And I think this is one of the main reasons why is that as we can expand these opportunities and these partnerships between folks within the supply chain, opportunities for infusion of non-traditional capital is really given an opportunity to roll into the conservation efforts in our grazing lands. And that's a big key point that we really need to be thinking about, because yes, we have relied in the grazing world for years upon funding that comes through our federal agencies, and that's very important and a cornerstone and a foundation for this. But if we have more opportunities and more ideas for rolling capital into conservation, let's explore those and see how we could do it. So, one of the things that we are doing in this is we're starting to develop these avenues for corporate and philanthropic dollars to engage with the land stewards directly. This increases the opportunity for on-the-ground conservation. Therein, we start to get this avenue of a need by corporate, an opportunity for capital, and a outcome that could be generated by our land stewards. So next one. And in these, if things go right, all parties win. That's the whole opportunity for this. We're looking at expanding conservation in our grazing land ecosystems that benefits not only our land stewards, but also benefits that societal part of this too, those corporate partners in this. So these evolving opportunities for diversification of those goods and services that our producers are generating every day, if there is ways to monetize that, what a great opportunity to move new avenues of resources into the conservation world. So that's kind of where we're coming from with this. Let's go on to the next one, Ellen. But there are some challenges and there are some opportunities. I mean, from a challenges perspective, we have to continually, and this is part of the role of NatGLC, but also it goes beyond that, to develop educational networks of interested stewards and interested corporate partners and start to develop the relationships, the networks that these partnerships could lead or could be built upon. We have to get folks understanding what's going on. We need to expand the understanding of our corporate and philanthropic partners on the challenges that are faced by the land stewards. Those pressure points that are out there right now. The corporate side of it, the philanthropic dollars, they need to understand what that is. We also need to expand the understanding of our land stewards on what the goals are of these corporate and philanthropic partners, because they have things that they need to meet too, outcomes that they're looking for. But the beauty of it is they're starting to look down their supply chain, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. We've heard offsets, we've heard insets. This is more of an inset idea. Let's keep this opportunity and this flow within the industry as an inset. But getting back to this, the whole idea is that if we are able to build out these partnerships and these opportunities, the sum of the parts exceeds the whole. When willing partners come together, we've got opportunities here. And so what are some of the outcomes? Well, viable partnerships, like I said, can provide a conduit of capital into conservation of our grazing lands that we have not necessarily taken in the past opportunities. Committed partners provide a stable opportunity for conservation success. That's key. We've got committed partners with our federal agencies and our other funding from governmental types of things. But if we add to this, then we get more stability of that flow of conservation dollars over time. Individual partners each benefit from these efforts. Producers benefit from their own opportunities to implement conservation, increase efficiencies and productivity of their corporate partners benefit because of the goods and services that are being generated by these types of opportunities. And these successful partnerships, they provided a foundation for our expanded opportunities here. And so the whole idea is the conservation mission, getting more opportunity for conservation on the ground that benefits our land stewards and benefits their corporate partners. So we got one thing that I really wanted to focus on and today is that information is the key component of this. Many philanthropic and corporate partners, they have developed goals for their corporate stewardship and sustainability. They have to have something tangible to rely upon. And so information and data is very important. Land stewards maintain a tremendous amount of information and data that come from their operations and could possibly be utilized in assessing outcomes that are beneficial to these corporate and philanthropic partners. These goals can be met in part through effective conservation efforts on the grazing lands, bringing these two together. And so, of the critical needs, as I said here at the beginning, go ahead one more time. Information is key, and deriving that information is what our partnership with AgriWebb is about. And so I want to turn it over to Campbell and let him speak a little bit about AgriWebb and what we've got going here.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Bill. And Ellen, appreciate you guys having me along today. Hopefully we can get my screen shared here. I will assume you can see that. That's come to life unless anybody tells me otherwise. But thank you so much for having us. Again, we're really excited to be partnering with Bill, Ellen, the entire NatGLC team on this particular project that I'm sure Bill will get into in just a few minutes here. But excited to be here talking with everybody. I think it's really exciting to see the kinds of opportunities that are presenting themselves to our customers, who are our kind of cow-calf ranchers, stockers, ranchers in the space, and hopefully relaying some of that information on how best those ranchers can take advantage of some of these opportunities. So excited to talk to you a little bit about data management, which I can't imagine is everybody's favorite topic, but hopefully we make it a little bit more accessible. But I guess before we get into that, I wanted to take a step back, similar to what Bill just did, and go, well, where are these opportunities coming from? And I think it's important to recognize that there are many major brands, some that and some that you may not have heard of, right the way across the world, that have made those commitments, as Bill said, to improving the kind of the resilience, the sustainability of their supply chains, certainly where those supply chains include animal products. So this is where those opportunities are derived from. Brands like these ones on the screen taking that stand, saying, we want to be leaders in the space. We want to push our supply chains forward, which again translates into those opportunities for those ranchers that they need to engage with. However, at least, and I'm sure Bill had certain similar interactions, but when we started to talk to our customers, multiple years ago, those cow-calf operators in the space that were being approached with potential opportunities, the carbon projects, the sustainability projects of kind of yesteryear, there was a few issues. Right, we found and heard from them that they were being approached by people driving down the driveway, but that the opportunities just really weren't aligned with their ranch goals. Right, they weren't in support of what those ranchers were trying to achieve. Improving the productivity, the profitability of those ranches. They kind of came with catches. There were mandatory interventions that again maybe didn't align with what those ranchers wanted to do to push their own operations forward. And then, of course, there was the kind of the burden or the perceived burden of data collection, and then the concerns around, well, wait, who am I sharing this information with? It seems to just go into a spreadsheet and get lost in the ether. I'd like to know exactly who I'm sharing my data with, what pieces of information I'm sharing, and how it's going to be used. And so what we've done is work with people like Bill and obviously some incredible corporate partners to try and change that narrative, try to put together projects that are aligned with rancher goals and make sure that they include tools that kind of reduce that uncertainty, reduce the burden when it comes to data sharing, but also when it comes to implementing new practices. Obviously, Bill being the leader in that space and someone we're pretty excited to be working with. And so what does that start to look like? It starts to look like designing programs that Bill can talk about in the Legacy Landscapes project and others that are focused on the efficiency, the productivity, the profitability of those ranching operations, and thus make an impact at the corporate level on the resiliency, the sustainability of a supply chain. but it's about giving those ranchers a selection of things that they can do that align with their ranch goals. Maybe that's genetic selection for one rancher and pasture seeding and fertilizer reduction for another. Really making sure that we provide that menu of options so that we can align these projects with the goals of the rancher. And so to take that a step forward, it's about arming those producers with not only the technical assistance through NatGLC and Bill, but giving them software or technical tools that allow them to reduce that burden when it comes to engaging in a project like this. And of course, there's the financial incentives. And so when we look at particular projects, especially this one that Bill's going to talk to in Legacy Landscapes, there's an incredible amount of kind of value that each of these ranchers can derive, if this is going to be a good fit for their operation. Any more detail I'll leave to the expert and Bill, and certainly hopefully there's more questions. I guess for the next 10 minutes or so, wanted to talk to you a little bit about that information, that data side of things and what we do at AgriWebb. Because as Bill said, similar to a value-added program, CARE or BQA or any of those others, data and information provides a key pillar. It's all well and good to engage in a project, but there needs to be that level of kind of data and information that backs up certain claims and backs up a project. And that's really where we come in. But if I take a step back from our role in the project, AgriWebb was founded about 10 years ago. I joined about 9. We used to be, young and hip and a startup, and now I feel reasonably old. But I've been lucky enough to work on 3 different continents with our ranchers. So Australia, in the UK, and now here in North America. But we were founded by kind of 5th and 6th generation ranchers who, when decision making fell to them on the ranch, realized that all the information, all the data that was needed to make those decisions was in, mom or dad's head, in grandma or grandpa's head, or written down on a piece of paper, and thus couldn't be used to kind of make those data-driven decisions that would ultimately result in kind of that more profitable, that more productive ranching operation. So what we've done is try to design a tool for cow-calf and stalker producers that allows them to take, the world's most popular ranch management tool, which is probably that pencil and paper on the left-hand side, and allow them to transition to a digital tool, right? I would imagine, usually when I'm standing in a room of ranchers, there's 99% of us have a supercomputer in our pocket. So allow them to do that day-to-day record keeping on their phone, right within an app that's very simple, very easy to use, so that they can then have that information to push their own ranching operation forward, so they can run that more efficient, profitable, and thus sustainable ranch. We've come at it a little differently. Like I said, we're kind of mobile first, so it's all based around a ranch map, meant to be very simple, very easy to use, not be this burdensome thing that you have to do in terms of data collection. You're moving some stock, you just pull out your phone and do that drag and drop movement as you see on the screen. But we've also tried to make sure that an entire ranching operation can be managed in one place, right? When we first started to speak with our ranchers, they were using either nothing or pencil and paper, but certainly if they were using technology, it was one thing for grazing, one thing for animal management, another thing for task management. And that's really where we've tried to come at this a little differently. So not only livestock management, but pasture management, full grazing plans, anything that a rancher might need to run their business. And that's where that all boils down to, pulling all together everything, again, from livestock to pasture to full business management to really make life simple for each and every rancher. We have a full team, based in North America that's only goal is to help our ranchers and engage with the product and get the most out of it. And, there's certainly our producers that choose to use 10% of the product that fits where they're at, fits their needs, fits their goals for their ranching operation. And so what happens when we start to have ranchers utilize a digital tool on AgriWebb? It means that they can capture the vast majority of the information, the data that is needed for a program like the Legacy Landscapes program, right? When data needs to be shared, you want to have it be able to be done in one place. So again, you're not having multiple spreadsheets that you're managing. It's a singular point where the ranchers can do their day-to-day record keeping. And just by simple drag and drop of animals or recording a death, they are recording the vast majority of the information they might need to submit to a project like this. But certainly, they're recording the information that allows us to kind of take those day-to-day records and turn them into something valuable for that rancher, right? We didn't wake up and I don't get up every day and hope that I can generate more data for a rancher, right? I've worked with ranchers on 3 continents, almost over a decade. I'm sure Bill will back me up on this. I don't know many ranchers that are desperate for more data, right? They want an actionable insight. They want something just like you and I, right? I'm not dying to pore over spreadsheets. The goal is to turn day-to-day records into actionable insights and reports that allow them to build that more productive, resilient, and thus sustainable ranching operation. One other thing that happens when we're able to kind of digitize that information and get a rancher to do their day-to-day records outside of a pencil and paper notebook, and that is they're able to securely share that ranch data. So whether they're wanting to share that with a trusted advisor, livestock agent, a grazing specialist, whether they're able to now easily share that information into a kind of private partnership program like the ones we're talking about today, or into things like government grants, it makes life a lot easier. It makes engaging in these kinds of projects hopefully a whole lot more fruitful for these ranchers. So again, multiple benefits that happen when we just start to do day-to-day record keeping in one place on a system like AgriWebb. And that's where we're hopefully breaking down a lot of those barriers that we originally started to hear from our ranchers that allows us all to unlock the power of these partnerships. So to round out here on a few things, we are the kind of the global leader when it comes to ranch management software. Today, we help to manage about 22 million head of livestock. It's across about 135 million acres. And we do onboard, approximately 125 ranches a month. And we've been incredibly lucky, certainly here in the United States and North America, to work with some of the leading institutes, Texas A&M, Noble Research Institute, and also some pretty incredible ranchers that have helped us, understand where we can deliver the most value for our ranching customers, whether that's on a day-to-day basis on the ranch, or whether that's allowing them to more easily engage in a project like this. So in summary, before I turn it back over to Bill, I guess 2 things. When we think about AgriWebb and the kind of value we try to deliver, the rancher is always going to be our end customer. We do everything with our ranchers in mind. We want to simplify the way in which they're able to manage their operations, eliminate, I put it in compliance pain, but really that comes down to anywhere that they can share their information, we want to allow them to do that really easily, safely, and securely. So they know what they're sharing, with whom, what it's going to be used for, and at any moment can pull that back if they're not comfortable, which again improves the data quality that our upstream partners and partners in programs like this are receiving, and hopefully gives ranchers that peace of mind. And then again, when push comes to shove, everything in our mind is about improving the performance of that ranch, because that's really what our customers care about. And so before Bill talks about Legacy Landscapes, at least from talking to my team and talking to our ranchers, I guess I want to leave you with 3 things that we think about when we're kind of evaluating these partnership opportunities that are coming to ranchers these days across the United States. It's make sure that there's top-tier technical assistance. We work with obviously NatGLC, but some other groups across the board, AgSpire being one of them, a number of others that are spectacular at what they do. And at least in my mind, amazing technical assistance is likely the difference between success and failure. Right? Having somebody there that can help you to implement those different practices to help push the ranch forward is just an enormous benefit to those particular programs and thus ranchers. Make sure there's tooling to support you and your ranch, right? Data requirements, as we said, they can feel prohibitive, but if there's those right solutions, right processes in place, that's actually can be a source of value rather than a source of pain. And then again, make sure that that those programs are aligning with rancher goals. And that's probably yes, a tidbit for the ranchers, but certainly others, that are putting together these programs. Right? We all want, as Bill said, it to be kind of a win-win-win all the way around for everybody engaging in these kinds of projects. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, happy to be here today. Hopefully there are going to be some questions after Bill kind of wraps us up here on Legacy Landscapes. But thank you guys so much again for having us. We're thrilled to be partnering with the NatGLC team and to be part of this exciting program.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Campbell. Really appreciate that. And as Campbell said, the idea here is to take these opportunities for these partnerships to really strengthen the productivity, the efficiency, the opportunities, and helping land stewards meet their goals for their operations, and also helping throughout the supply chain opportunities with the things that are going on the ranch itself. And so, as an example, I'm going to finish off real quick with the Legacy Landscapes program. Just a quick overview of it. Of this as an example of one of these partnerships. Legacy Landscapes is a partnership between the National Grazing Lands Coalition, AgriWebb, and also one of our supporting partners, Regrow. And it's spearheaded and funded by Nestle Purina Pet Care. And a lot of people when I'm talking to folks about you say Purina and everything, they start thinking about livestock feed and all that. No, this is Purina Pet Care, actually owned by Nestle Corporation out of Switzerland, but they are a huge partner in the supply chain when it comes to what our folks are doing in the industry right now, and that's providing us a stable source of protein from the landscapes that are being managed. The the Legacy Landscapes program is designed to support producers in improving the productivity and their efficiency of their livestock and grazing operations. The outcome of it is there's actually, with these good efforts in the grazing management and the production and efficiencies and all that, there are multiple byproducts that people think about, and sometimes we're getting beat, I have to say this, unmercilessly by some folks of some of these byproducts, but they're actually byproducts that could be of value to the land steward, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a minute. So let's go ahead and go to the next one there. Campbell mentioned this. What can you expect if you were to partner in a program like this? Well, the way that we have built this partnership with the three groups and Purina is that the land stewards, the ranchers will be receiving consultation with NatGLC to identify impactful improvements and opportunities. We call them practices, interventions, whatever you want to call it. That technical assistance will be provided by NatGLC and AgriWebb to support you every step of the way within the program. Go to the next one, please. This is one that's always very interesting. AgriWebb for free. People are looking, like Campbell said, people are looking for ways to streamline this opportunity of bringing this data together. There's great value when it comes to the management of the land and the operation itself. But this is, as Campbell said, this is also the opportunity to generate the kinds of data and support necessary to make those byproducts perhaps monetizable and actually diversify the opportunity. So participating in Legacy Landscapes gets the opportunity to partner with AgriWebb and their data platform to help do this. And then for the third part of it, you get opportunities to get paid to participate. In this particular model, what we have done is put together some upfront payments for participation per head, knowing that there's going to be time and also recognizing that there's time of the operator to ramp up into this. Now, obviously, once you get up and running, hopefully the idea is that with the use of the data management platform with AgriWebb, things become a lot simpler. You're not having to run back out to the truck when it's 20 below and get your notepad, you just popping it on your phone and pulling that up. So we have put together this idea of some upfront payments as an incentivization for coming onto the program. The real opportunity then is at the end of the year, and the fact that through increases in productivity, increases in efficiency, hopefully Mother Nature working with us, there is an opportunity for reduction in intensity of methane production. And we've put this kind of as Campbell was saying, there's that when we first started in these carbon markets, it was kind of in your face, and there was things you got to do. Methane we look at as a byproduct of what's naturally going on out there anyway with the grazers. But if we could reduce that a little bit with productivity increases and efficiency increases, there's an opportunity for payment there because those emission intensity levels go down. That's something that the corporate partner can then claim. And that's where we're looking at this. So we've got a little bit of an incentivization up front, but this is more of an outcome-based approach to incentivization, in that the outcome, that benefit then can be purchased at the end. So go on to the next one, would you please, Ellen? So how does it work? And this is kind of put in a nutshell. This is from our partner Regrow, but they did a really good job of kind of encapsulating this. We've got a herd emission number of what's going on. As producers, we all know those animals are out there, they're ruminants, they burp, they defecate. We have that. It's natural. It's what happens. But there are ways to reduce that through interventions, either by increasing the quality of the diet composition, things like that. There are genetic improvements that could be made. There's supplements that are being brought to market. These kinds of things that can help reduce the amount of emissions that are coming from that herd. You also have the increase in productivity, just like you could have reductions in emissions through diet composition, improved fertility, improved animal health, genetics, those types of things. You could actually increase productivity. So you're decreasing methane on one side, increasing productivity on the other side, and then you end up with a carbon intensity number at the end. But that still may be a little bit confusing. So if you go to the next slide, Ellen, this one really, I think, brings it home. And this has been a great one that we have shared through AgriWebb, Regrow, and all of our partners. But if you look at this, if you picture yourself in that baseline situation where it takes 22 months to get to market whatever that product is that you're producing, that's your baseline once you've collected your data. And through the changing of practices, some interventions and things that go on, it only takes 20 months to get that same productivity or even more productivity. That 2-month window there at the end, that 2 months that you were not doing that product has moved on down the supply chain. That 2 months is a reduction in the intensity of that byproduct that's been put out there. And that reduction is what people are indicating that they're willing to pay for. It takes, like Campbell said, it takes data, it takes information, it takes some efforts of our partners at Regrow to help quantify that. But that's kind of in a nutshell what we're looking at, is that 2-month window on a herd of 500 head of cattle. There's a lot going on when you're reducing the amount of burps over 2 months out there. I'm just kind of putting that in a humorous way. But we go on to the next slide, Ellen. And this kind of goes into how we inventory it. And the one on the bar graph on the one side, again, if you could look at that change there between year 1 and year 2, it's kind of the same thing on the other side where you've got the lines. Basically, with this program, you will baseline your operation in year 1, bring that data into the AgriWebb system, and then as you continue to collect the data after these interventions have gone into place, then year 2, that data goes through the system, gets analyzed, and that difference between those two lines there is the delta where we have the opportunity of reducing a greenhouse gas. That is an inset that could be then utilized within supply chain. In this particular case, excuse me, our partner Purina says we would be willing to pay for that. So you have a byproduct of what's going on naturally in the operation, and these efforts with Legacy Landscapes, as Ashley McDonald, our executive director, said, this is a safe space if you've been thinking about looking into these carbon markets and how to get engaged. This is kind of one of those places where it's a good place to dip your toes in and think about how this could work and see how these markets are starting to evolve and get involved with them. But, a lot of times when I'll finish up with this idea that, and talking to ranchers, those cows are out there they're doing what they're going to do. They do it naturally, and they produce a byproduct that may have value. Just like we've done with our wildlife operations and diversifying, why not take the opportunities to look and see if we can diversify even further some of these natural byproducts of the management of our lands. So that's in a nutshell kind of what Landscape Legacies is about there. You can see the QR code there in the corner if you have more interest. Obviously, I'd be more than happy to visit with you further about this with interest. I would say that we're starting off in year 1. Our partners our ranchers are in Texas, in Kansas, in Nebraska. And the reason for that is that's a normal supply scape for the corporate partner right now. But these opportunities obviously have the chance, if we're successful, to grow out into other places. So with that, Ellen, I'm going to turn it back over to you and I guess we'll open it up for questions.
Yes, we have plenty of time. If anyone has any questions, you can either unmute or post them in the chat.
Wow, Campbell, we must have done a good job.
That's it. Clear as mud, as they say.
There's one in the chat. Yeah.
Perfect. Does the AgriWebb program allow for the producer to also take photo point monitoring in individual pastures and paddocks? Yeah, Alan, great question. Absolutely. So we've got the ability to, through the task management system, be able to effectively have the AgriWebb platform be GPS enabled. So my colleague Steph, who's a rancher in Arizona, likes to say that, no longer when she's riding around and sees, something that needs to be fixed, like a water line, does she have to try and describe it to her dad. She just drops a pin, takes a picture, and someone else across the ranch, namely her dad, can pick it up and make sure that they know exactly where that's been, or where that job needs to be done. So absolutely, there's an ability to capture that as a task, capture that as a point of interest, attach a photo to it, but also attach those GPS coordinates. So not only useful on a day-to-day management, but also when we think about the evidence-based records that we might need for programs like this, it hopefully serves a dual purpose. Great question.
We got another question in the Q&A section from Jan. She said, one item showing up with questions about data is to make sure that grass-fed beef is actually grass-fed. Is AgriWebb helping to prove where cattle have been and what they have been fed?
Yep. Yeah, so it's a great question. Appreciate it. And obviously it's complex with the complexities of the US supply chain. So where we can, we try and empower our producers to, again, make sure that they're completing those day-to-day records so they know exactly which pastures they've been in, what they've been fed, things of that nature. We don't go into feedlots. So our program just isn't a good fit for those kind of high intensity feed operations. But we do have programs that are traceable. So through EIDs or another unique identifier, we're able to pull that data together to hopefully act as that, like, here's the repository of everything that's happened across that animal's life. So I'd love if anybody is thinking about traceable supply chains and pulling data together from the cow-calf, the stalker, and the feedlot side of things. Please, I'll put my email address in the chat here. I'd love to talk to you about that. It's something we do really, really well in other geographies, and I'd love to do more of it here in the US. Hopefully that answers the question, Jan Philip.
Yeah, and there also was another question there, Ellen. Looking at the carbon intensity could also include amount of carbon stored in the soils, and are we looking at techniques for that? And the answer to that for this program is no. This is an animal-based methane based program in particular. Now, are there opportunities to build out programs similar to that could incorporate the soil carbon question into it? I'd say yes. It becomes a little bit more dynamic when you start talking about soil carbon, additionality and permanence and things like that versus looking at an animal, delta change year over year in an animal production type of situation. So yes, could it include that? Right now, this program's not. I think there's some evolution probably that's needed on the soil carbon side.
Troy, I see you have your hand raised.
Thank you. Somehow I'm locked out of the chat. I don't know why. Probably me. I just had a question about. So you were talking about efficiencies, genetics, and those types of things, and immediately I was thinking about a more holistic data, more holistic and not just carbon, but if you do all these things well, that there's a water quality benefit, there's erosion benefit, wildlife benefit, nutrient density benefit. There's so much more to capture that will actually be more holistic to everyone, except we keep focusing on one, the carbon or whatever. Is that a consideration in a bigger platform, or that's just too big of a net to cast all these other benefits? Thank you.
Well, Troy, from my perspective, and I'll let Campbell add some more. Obviously, yes, that's where we want to get eventually. The stacking of these things, when you start looking at the opportunities that come out of water, biodiversity, these other goods and benefits that are there, they probably have the higher opportunities long term. I'll just put it this way: carbon was the elephant in the room that started this, and in particular with this particular program that we're talking about, methane is one that is directly related to the cow-calf or the ruminant production industry, and so that's kind of where the focus is there. That's also where, again, in my opinion, the market has made attempts to monetize this more so than water or biodiversity. I think those are coming along, and we'll eventually get to that point to where you'll have opportunities to stack these things and get multiple benefits and hopefully increase opportunities for that diversification and incentive payment types of things. Campbell, whatever you think there, if you got some other ideas.
No, spot on. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. I think it's one of those things. Perhaps my favorite part of my role here at AgriWebb is twofold. I have an amazing colleague, Dr. Nicole Buckley-Biggs, and she's, from our side of things, looking into exactly those questions, Troy, right? How do we measure, those types of kind of other benefits, additional benefits that come with these kinds of programs? But it's also working with, other technology providers, because how do we measure, an improvement in, at scale, water quality or increase in biodiversity, et cetera. So being able to measure that being able to work with Nicole to understand how we would start to layer these in as Bill's just said. Definitely top of mind. I think to Bill's point, it's just, you know, the methane piece was the starting gun, and hopefully we can layer in on top of that. And then I think the only other thing we try and, you know, tell to our ranchers is that all of that is going to require, maybe we don't know the exact pieces of information, but it's all going to require that data, right? Grazing practices, you know, what's been applied from fertilizer perspective, et cetera, et cetera. So the more information they can capture now, the more value they're going to have, you know, even in a couple of years when they're asked to baseline for 2025. So.
Yeah. And Troy, I guess I'd say that, you know, this is a bit of a stretch, but we're starting to get there on biodiversity if we're talking in the methane world, because if methane is a direct relation to forage quality, and the more you increase the diet composition and the kinds of things that these ruminants can intake, you're reducing methane, but also you're increasing biodiversity because you're filling more of the niches within the ecosystems with the kinds of things that can be growing there. I think Ashley had a question.
Hi, am I unmuted now? Yes. Hi, Bill. Hi, Campbell. Good to speak to you as always. Just in terms of, I joined a bit late, so sorry if you already covered this. But in terms of methane is high in energy. We all know that it burns, and it's also that energy is lost from the animal. So any methane that is emitted is potentially, you know, it's what 5 to 12% of feed energy. So have you thought of also identifying ways that methane can be used as a proxy for nutritional status, for forage quality status, or for changes in that? So you're actually helping producers to provide better nutrition, get better growth rates, get more efficiency for their animals. So you're driving value in multiple channels rather than just through the carbon markets.
Yeah, Ash, I'll take a quick stab at that. I know you had an opportunity to visit, you know, briefly with Dr. Tollison at CattleCon. You know, one of the things that is an offshoot of this, we also are looking at the opportunity to quantify the forage values and forage qualities with some measurements from that. And so I think that is it's an opportunity that is there. It's not necessarily directly related to the Landscape Legacies program. I mean, the Legacy Landscapes program. Sorry about that. But there is that next step as this begins to evolve in the program and hopefully beyond the program to bring that kind of measurement and into the conversation and how to utilize that. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, thanks, Bill. I think that's yeah, it's you need to these things build and grow. I think the last question, I think with Troy, was the same sort of things. You need to start somewhere, and then once you've got more data, once you've got more points where you're collecting that data, you can then build sort of add-ons and create value in different ways. And where my question fits is it's not the number one or first cab off the rank, to use that expression, but it's certainly something for the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions before we conclude? My video keeps freezing. I hope you guys can hear me.
Yep,
we can hear you fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay, well, if other questions come up, we are all available via email. Campbell put his in the chat. I'll get Bill's in the chat as well.
And it's in the presentation.
Yes, it's also in the presentation. I assume you all pre-registered. That's how you got the link for this event, but you will all be receiving an email copy in the next couple of days of this recording. We'll also be posting it to our YouTube page. So if you want to reference it or share it with someone who may think this is relevant information, you will be able to do that and send the link. And we just thank you all for coming out today and your time, and we hope to see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank y'all. Bye.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Campbell.